owning
I'm going to defer
other than
to
Channel
Kelly
8.
Jo, Greg Miles on the governor's activities.
As a matter of fact,
It was a very empty press conference.
we're going to actually have Ms. Craig Miles come to the podium now, and then we'll take care of the rest of your questions right after the brief.
Okay, sir, to answer your question specifically, what Governor Kulongoski was involved in, as well as most of the state of Oregon emergency management and executive department personnel, was a continuity of operation and a continuity of government exercise. We have never yet before, until this exercise, tested what would happen if the governor was incapacitated. So it was a first-time activity to run the governor's staff as well as the state elected officials through this process. Upon activation yesterday, when the state was notified of it, the State Emergency Coordination Center was activated, and we immediately began working with the Federal Emergency Management Agency out of FEMA Region 10 in Bothell. They deployed what they call an Emergency Response Team Advanced, which is a representation of all of the emergency support functions under the National Response Plan. They are currently residing at the state EOC with our personnel, and at some point when the rest of the team arrives from the federal government, we'll transition to what they call a joint field office, which will be a combination of state and federal personnel addressing the needs for the state of Oregon. The way our law works is the city goes to the county requesting assistance. The county will then go to the state when their resources are exhausted. And at the state level, if we are unable to provide assistance or do not have that particular capability, then we will actually go to the federal government and request that assistance. The governor did sign a declaration of emergency for the state yesterday morning. He has issued a request to the President of the United States for a major disaster declaration for Oregon. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what the status of that is. It is all-player action. We have requested that. As Jeremy indicated, we do have a principal federal official that has been named. We do have a a federal coordinating officer and a state coordinating officer that will be working together to respond to the incident here in the state of Oregon to support the city of Portland as well as the surrounding counties. All right, questions?
Just a quick note on that. Under Presidential Directive 51, Bush can determine what is and what is not an emergency, can override the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and take control of Congress. That's your declaration of emergency.
Okay, so my name's Lori Kelly, and I'm the marketing director here at the University of Portland. Director of Marketing and Communications here at the University of Portland.
So what's happening today here at the
Well, on campus today, there's a simulated drill that's going off called Topoff 4. It's with the Department of Homeland Security, and we're actually just the location for this. We've been involved, and we've got a lot of volunteers here on campus that are actually participating as medical providers and also as, I guess you'd call them injured parties.
Yeah. One thing I was surprised to find out was that not very many Portlanders, not very many of my viewers have made enough phone calls. In fact, they haven't actually received that many concerned phone calls about Topoff 4. I found it to be a little bit alarming, but I know some of you are doing that, and I want to thank you. So spread the word to those that don't know. But I asked the officials about concerns from the public, and they said there were virtually no concerns. I actually talked to a few people and asked them if people were concerned at the schools, at the other facilities where things were going on. Some people thought it was pretty cool. I was at the Sheridan, and there were a lot of different people there that were not part of the Homeland Security situation, but feds were everywhere.
I almost need you
to receive very little question.
One of the... No, I don't
People
really
seem very relaxed, too. It was almost a festive environment.
Ooh, this is perfect. Here, I'll just do it with hand.
And you can see how quickly this can be done. But a lot of us think, hey, that's preparation. We need to do that. Under what? The phony threat, the phony, illegal, never-ending war on terror based on the ultimate 9/11 lie.
So the pets do stay outside?
Another aspect of the drills to consider is the whole bureaucracy behind the drills.
Noting that FEMA's here and whatnot, in terms of the relationship between FEMA and the Red Cross.
There are liaisons, there are professional liaisons with the National Organization of the Red Cross that work to communicate between FEMA and the Red Cross to make sure that we're talking to each other, we know what each other is doing, and if we need help from the other organization, they're there to facilitate that. Side, women's are on this side, there's a common area in between. So, and there would be special accommodations.
Did anyone sleep here last night?
Yes, we had some residents here last night. How many? We had about 13.
And these were those that responded to T4volunteers.com.
I'm not certain about that.
Again, this is in Gresham at this point. This was yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock. On the topic, though, of bureaucracy, the more money you spend, the more money you get in your budget. That's the bureaucracy that I was referring to in terms of the drill, the financial aspect of it all.
Began to preach Romans 13 to calm people in case of civil unrest. My question is that something that you talk about here in the church?
That's not a particular event that I'm aware of. That's not something that I've been doing particularly, no.
This is the
Reunited
pet
with their
shelter,
pets, so that's
also
what's
at the
going
same
on in there
location.
right now.
The last
So feel
man
free
was the
to
pastor
do
of the
whatever you
church where the Red Cross is set up. My question to him was, I'm sure you missed it because the audio was low, was, do you preach Romans 13 to your church? That is, giving power over the government and using the Bible to do that, as the government has recruited thousands to do in the South.
And this allows us, as you can see, that the cages allow us to have the animals in here. If this had been a real scenario with animals that needed to be decontaminated, we would have had a place where the
emergency takes place. If resources are overwhelmed at the local level, then you're going to request assistance from the county, and if things continue to ramp up and we need additional assistance, we would request it from the state, and then the state would request assistance from the federal. And that's what you see here in this mock terrorist event. You see all of the systems within the city and the county being overwhelmed.
By the way, we're at the Portland Emergency Center on 92nd and PAL, 911 Dispatch Center as well.
Resources from the federal. And so Governor Kulagowski was kind of explaining how that works yesterday. And here you see the city of Portland with several of our regional partners managing the event right now. And what we're specifically doing is putting resources where they're needed, and that would be the operations section. While operations is working on events on the ground and talking with their representatives out in the field on the ground, you have the planning section who are coming up with strategies and working on what's happening right at this moment, what's coming up next, and which direction we're going in, strategies and tactics to deal with things. And then you've got, of course, logistics, which is supplying resources and equipment to the emergency. And you've got the finance section, which, of course, documents everything and manages all the record keeping. The 911 center here this is the mock 911 center, and it's every bit as real as the real thing with people taking calls and what we call triaging those calls and putting resources and people where they need to be.
And Homeland Security is overseeing everything. This is the command center at the Sheraton Hotel near the Portland Airport. This is the nerve of the entire operation. All Homeland Security operated, all Homeland Security run. And they are overseeing everything and every decision being made, no matter what they're telling you about sharing and communicating and openness. Because what I saw here in terms of the questions I asked and others, it was anything but open.
Some of the details of the drill that we're not seeing getting up close in terms of keeping the information away from the general public for the purpose of, what happened with Topoff 3. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, well, of course. I mean, absolutely, because
sometimes you've mentioned we can't mention.
Well, as you can imagine, there's very sensitive information which exposes vulnerabilities, and what we want to do is we want to find out how we can address those issues. So, obviously, to release that information in a public forum would not be conducive to what we're trying to learn and what we're trying to prevent.
So what I want you to do online, if you're watching, is Google Topoff 3 or VNN, and you can see the actual fake newscast, the state media, if you will, and many issues come up. Again, vaccinations, martial law, evacuation, food supply, civil unrest, and these are the plans they're making. Civil unrest. Why civil unrest? What causes civil unrest? A collapse and war causes civil unrest. It's not just about martial law. It's not just about the symptoms. It's about the causes. Now is the time to look at it. People have been talking about the police state for years. We can't keep doing that for years because we don't have years left to go to keep circling the wagon like a hamster running on the wheel. 9/11 is important. These issues are important, but we have to move forward now because they're moving forward. Just stay with me. This is David Douglas High School this morning. Children were taking part in this drill, acting as Army personnel in some cases, manning the checkpoint, which you see earlier in the clip. This is how we're going out tonight. Here's the press conference. Audio up. Do we have audio? Oh, what's being asked is about the 9/11 drills, and he's being asked that by Ginny. And that's the question she asked, and she was asking about the odd coincidence. And Michael Topoff, if we have audio, we may have technical difficulties beyond our control. But
I have to confess, I've never heard anybody suggest that there were any drills that presaged or brought on 9/11. I think I have a pretty firm grasp on what brought on 9/11, and I also read the 9/11 Commission report, and I'm pretty confident that it was brought on by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Osama bin Laden and Mohammed Atta and a bunch of other folks, none of whom consulted with or were focused on any kinds of drills. I think we drill all the time on scenarios that we believe are possible, some more likely than others, and we do it because we want to be prepared if something happens. I think it would be a form of kind of magical thinking to believe that if we drill for something, it's going to happen because we drilled for it. On that theory, we should never have a fire drill because fire drills bring on fires. So certainly this scenario, which was planned a couple years ago, and I think we've actually used RDDs previously, reflects an honest recognition that we live in a world where there could be a dirty bomb and that we better be prepared for it. But it's not, I'm quite confident that the fact of the drill is not going to bring on an attack.
Last question up front. Last question up front. One at a time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've had several drills from the state and local jurisdictions over the last few years.
All right, I want to thank you all for watching. We have about a minute or two left. Again, if you go to portlandindymedia.org, you can go ahead and post if you've seen anything. We didn't really get any reports except one. Caller reported a lot of black helicopters during Topoff 3. She heard several helicopters last night. That would be Topoff 4 because Topoff 3 was a while back. Yeah, Topoff 4, she's Hawthorne East Side. I actually have heard that from a couple people, the Mount Tabor area. Interesting area. For the government to be involved in that area, there are a hell of a lot of activists and anti-war individuals in that area. SUVs driving very quickly in formation in her neighborhood. And of course, I saw a Homeland Security chopper up close at the Sheridan Airport, and I was amazed at how loud it seemed at first, but then how quiet it was right away. That it wasn't as loud as some helicopters that I had heard in the past. It alerted me right away, but before I knew it, it was already gone. And it was down there, about 1,000 feet down, just hovering. William Rodriguez will be speaking. Last Man Out, 9/11 Hero is the name of this event. Tuesday, November 6th at Berbati's Pan. That's 231 Southwest Ankeny, Portland, Oregon. One thing I want to say is that I have felt personally very frustrated over this particular situation in terms of the coverage in not only the mainstream media, but the alternative and conspiratorial world as well. And I find this to be a little bit alarming considering the fact that these are all documented facts, that we are now witnessing history in the making. And we have to do something about our own survival because it's clear our government is not going to be there for us in the case of a major disaster. And this oil-based system that apparently they don't want us off of is causing us a lot of problems because if something happens, the oil distribution is going to hurt the trucking industry, which carries your food from point A to point B. And that in this new globalized world in the 21st century is a big, big problem. More updates, more details about this amazing adventure Saturday on WTPRN from 2 to 4 Central Standard Time. We'll see you next week. Good night.